I wanted to bring you guys this article that was well written. It's a little old, June 17th, 2021. This is by Jennifer on medium.com. And she writes a very good synopsis of the disappearance of Zachary Bernhardt. And I want to look into that today. This is Christopher, the lead director and founder of Protect Your Children Incorporated. And I want to thank you for taking the time to watch this video. We've done a lot of stuff on Zachary Bernhardt, and we will continue to do so until this case is solved or until Zachary is found. And we need your help to do so. Each person that watches and learns and involves themselves in searching for clues and tips and offers comments is somebody who's potentially helping to locate 8-year-old Zachary Bernhardt, who's now 30 years old. So the unsolved disappearance of Zachary Bernhardt. I want to do some commentary on this. She says here the information is obtained from the Where Are They podcast and other online sources as cited. That podcast is very good. You can find that by doing a Google search. So Zachary Bernhardt was a curious 8-year-old boy in 2000 living in Clearwater, Florida. Zach lived with his single mother, Leah, and had a bit of an unstable childhood. Yeah, unstable. They moved like 10 times and the kid was only 8. Leah struggled to make ends meet, and she and Zach would end up being evicted several times. In September of 2000, Zach and Leah were living in the Savannah Trace apartment complex in Clearwater. On the night of September 10th, Leah, who normally worked nights, was off. Leah planned a movie night for them, and then Zach went to bed around 11. And being used to staying up all night for work, Leah went back to watching TV. And then at 3 a.m., Leah went for a walk and a quick swim in the apartment swimming pool. Let's stop there for a second. All right. The story has changed so many times, her account of what has happened. It was she went for a walk, and then she went for a swim, and it was 4 a.m., and now it's 3 a.m. The story is all over the place, so we're going to have to just roll with this, okay? And did you ever notice how whenever a child goes missing, the parent always has like this beautiful parent story, we had dinner and I cooked a favorite meal and we watched movies and we snuggled together on the couch, and then all of a sudden, the next day, the child is missing. Just seeing there's a theme here, so. All right, so they planned the movie night. 3 o'clock, she goes for a walk and a quick swim in the apartment swimming pool. I will tell you that we have spoke to many people that lived in that apartment complex and some that still do, even this being 22 years later. We have a video on that, actually. It's on our YouTube channel under the Zachary Bernhardt playlist. And they say that the security locks the pool at 10 p.m., but sometimes they forget. So let's just say that maybe the pool was actually unlocked at 3 a.m. So when she came back to the apartment, Zachary was gone. Okay, that's not exactly the whole story, but let's move on and we'll get into that. Zach was reported missing on September 11th, 2000, and his mother Leah made the 911 call at 4:47 a.m. And it says, to this day, the whereabouts of Zachary Bernhardt are unknown. Where is Zachary? Zachary Bernhardt was a thoughtful child, very curious and very intelligent. He loved to take items found lying around the house and just build or create things. His family used to smile and talk about how they thought he would make a great architect someday. He had a large family network consisting of his mom, Leah, his grandmother, Carol, and several aunts, uncles, and cousins. The family was known to be pretty close-knit, and Zach's cousins recall him playing games with them. They also noted how Zach was an agreeable child who just wanted to agree with everyone and would just play whatever games the other kids wanted. Despite the large family, Zach's life was a bit chaotic in those first 8 years. Zachary was born in December of 1991. And we want to take a second to tell you that on that playlist, you will find a video that we did with another YouTuber who was raising awareness on the case. We did it on Zachary's birthday of last year, of 2021. So you can check that out on the playlist as well. A lot of great information there. His mom, Leah, was single and never really discussed who Zach's father was. In 1994, Leah was living in Ann Arbor, Michigan with a boyfriend when she gave birth to a little girl. There has been some confusion on this. The little girl was not living in Clearwater at the time Zachary disappeared. Okay? The child was up in Michigan with the father. Eventually, Leah and her boyfriend would break up, and Leah would end up moving back to Florida, at first taking both kids with her. During a visitation meetup, Leah dropped both the kids off with the ex, including Zachary, and asked if he would watch Zach as well as their daughter while she went out for a bit. Allegedly, this man agreed, and Leah would not come back for the kids for several days. Now, I will tell you that the reports are that she met the guy like on a stretch of I-75, north of where they were. Kind of a strange meeting place, but yeah, it's on the side of the highway. So Leah didn't come back for a couple days. After this incident, the man fought for custody of the little girl and won. Okay, so that's it. That's the daughter. She's went up to Michigan. She's out of the picture as far as Florida's concerned. Leah and Zachary moved to Clearwater. Leah had little or no contact with the daughter again. In fact, as far as anyone knows, this girl and Leah still have no relationship, even though her daughter is now an adult. There's a little picture there. Leah and Zachary bounce around a lot as Leah struggles to keep a place and keep the bills paid. They are evicted several times from many different places. However, with the help of her close family, they always seem to land on their feet. There are a lot of assumptions of why that is. Leah allegedly struggled with drug abuse, alcohol abuse, liked to party a little too much, allegedly. And this could account for the fact that she could not hold down a job, and they were continuing to be evicted from places. In fact, just 6 days before Zachary disappeared, they received an eviction notice for the Clearwater apartment, which you can see right there in the picture. So just 6 days after that notice was received, Zach disappears. Interesting. Keep that in mind for later. In 2000, Leah and Zachary were living in Savannah Trace Apartments. Savannah Trace Apartments were on Drew Street in Clearwater, Florida. The road runs east and west with the Gulf of Mexico on one side and Tampa Bay on the other. Leah was working the night shift, and she and Zachary seemed to finally be doing well. Everyone that knew them commented about what a doting mother Leah was to Zach and how close they were. Leah's mom had commented that at some point she realized Zach was all she had, especially after losing her daughter in the custody battle. At 29 years old now, Leah had a little history of going out and partying a little bit, but was really working hard to provide a good life now for her and Zach. So there's a little acknowledgement there that there was a little some drug and partying going on, maybe a little too much. And you don't take your 8-year-old son with you when you go do that, hopefully. So while she was working nights, a neighbor would watch Zachary. She would sleep while Zach was at school, and they would spend evenings together having dinner and watching television. The family said they loved to watch movies together, and when Leah was off at work, they often had sleepovers with the cousins. The other kids loved going to their Aunt Leah's house because she always let them stay up late watching movies. That's a cool aunt. We will make a point later on in this video about the neighbor who would watch Zachary. We have heard from that neighbor, and that neighbor also made some reports to the police, which we can get into in a little bit later on in this video. So there's an age 28 age progression photo here of Zach. Okay, that's 28. He'd be 30 now. He'll be turning 31 here next month. On the night of September 10th, 2000, Leah was off of work. She made dinner for her and Zach, and they were going to have a movie night together. See, there you go. It's always a beautiful night, the time before the child disappears. 11 p.m., she noticed Zach falling asleep on the couch. Earlier that night, she said Zach asked if he could sleep with her that night, and Leah agreed. So Leah carried Zach to bed. This would be Leah's bed, okay, putting him in her bed before going back to watch some more television. Now, we will say that her bedroom was upstairs. This was a 2-story apartment, so you can go in there, and then, you went up the outside stairs, you went in the apartment, and then you went up another flight of stairs to where the master bedroom was, and that is where Leah's room was. At 1 a.m., Leah said she remembered doing something in the kitchen and noticing that trash needed taking out. So she did just that. Now remember, Leah worked nights, so her being awake all night doing household tasks isn't that crazy because that's the schedule that she kept. Someone in the apartment complex also noticed Leah taking the trash out around that time, or at least seeing her put the trash in her car and driving toward the dumpsters. When Leah came back to the apartment, Zachary was sound asleep. Now, I'm going to make a point here, because later on we're going to realize something here. When we get to the fact that Leah went out, okay, she says she took this swim. We'll get to that in a little bit. And then she came back and was cold, so she wanted to take a warm shower, right? She would have had to go upstairs, check on Zach, or she would have walked past her bed into the master bathroom, okay, to take this shower. But she apparently didn't notice he wasn't in the bed until after she got out of the shower. But this time, just after taking the trash out, she comes back and she says, "Oh, let me check on him. He's still sound asleep." Leah said she would watch a little more television, and then at 3 a.m. she was feeling restless and decided to go for a walk. She did not lock the apartment door, which apparently was pretty normal for Leah. She took a short walk around, and then she said she went for a quick swim in the apartment complex swimming pool, diving in and just swimming down and back before getting out of the pool. Also, in our video that we did of the complex, we took the walk from the apartment to the pool, see how long it took, see if it jives with the timeline. That's also on the playlist for Zachary on our YouTube channel. She did this in her clothing and without a towel, apparently. Now that is odd. So 3 or 4 in the morning, she's going to go jump in the pool, go for a swim. She's not going to take a towel. She's going to do it fully clothed. Now, the allegations are that there was some drug use involved. Perhaps maybe that has something to do with this, because that is a very odd thing to do in the middle of the night. When she got back to her apartment, she was cold from her swim and went in to take a shower. Now, this is what Leah's story is. When she got out of the shower and was standing in her room, so you referenced that earlier, she noticed that Zach wasn't in bed. She thought maybe he fell off the bed, but she looked everywhere and couldn't find him. So she takes the trash out, comes right back, goes upstairs, and sees that he's still there. But then goes for a swim and a walk, and then goes back and gets in the shower and does all that, but didn't notice he wasn't there. Okay, just following this so far here. She checked with her neighbor who babysat for her and was told they hadn't seen him. So Leah would call the police and report Zach missing at 4:47 a.m. on the morning of September 11th, 2000. And this here is reminding you to listen to the Where Are They podcast to hear the 911 call. Basically, she just calls and she says, I can't find my son. I can't find my son. I went out. I left the door unlocked. It's my fault. Well, there's the extent of it. So the police came out immediately, started searching. They brought search dogs out, but they couldn't locate any scent for Zach outside of the apartment. When the sun rose and it was daylight, they also brought out helicopters to search. It was thought at first that maybe Zach woke up while his mom was out of the apartment and went looking for her, either getting lost or maybe even abducted. Slight chance of that, we feel. 8 years old, middle of the night. I don't know, I wouldn't have walked outside in the dark in the middle of the night. But, okay. Leah was upset, of course. She was sobbing. She was pacing. The police searched the apartment very thoroughly and found no signs of a struggle, no blood, nothing to indicate anything sinister had happened there. In fact, the chief was on the news saying, this is a very strange case because there's no evidence of a crime. Now all they have is just, Zach's missing. That's it. But no struggle, no breaking and entering, no nothing. Just nothing. Right off the bat, however, the police did look skeptically at Leah. And I know the story leading up to Zach's disappearance does kind of paint Leah in a questionable way. This writer goes on to say. However, while the investigation proceeds, there will be clues that lead police away from looking at Leah as a suspect. So again, a reminder to keep an open mind about what happened here. It's dangerous to jump to conclusions because if that conclusion is wrong, we might just let the truth skate on by. Yes, you have to keep an open mind, absolutely. And now protect your children. That's what we've been trying to do. We're very skeptical of the mom. just as the police were, and tons of others are, but we are not saying she did anything. There are many theories that have to be looked at in all of this, and we're trying to be fair and balanced with all of this and try to get to the truth of what happened. Because this young boy, his whole life was just destroyed through no fault of his own. Through no fault of his own. People that were involved in this destroyed this child's life. And we want to see justice take place. One of the first things they do is question Leah about Zachary's biological father. She does give them his information, but doesn't think he had anything to do with it since they have had no contact. And in fact, when police track him down, not only are they able to verify his alibi, that he was out of state, this man didn't even know that he had a son. Now, that's something that the police that's all they said. That the dad, they know who he is, and he's not considered a person of interest or a suspect in the case. What we'd like to know is, what? Did she just give them a name? Hey, it's Joe Schmo over in Oklahoma. All right, what's his number? There you go. Right? I mean, did they actually verify that this man gave birth? I don't know, but we're just assuming that the police did their work. Investigators take Leah down to the station on the morning of September 11th in the interrogation room. Leah is frantic. She's crying. She's red-eyed. Everything you would expect. Except then during some of the questioning, she would stop and tell stories of Zach or something about him that would make her smile, even chuckling a few times. Investigators thought that was odd and had some experts look at her body language and actions. And while everyone thought some of those moments were questionable, body language experts said that her actions were also typically responses to stress and panic. Leah is very cooperative in the beginning, but the press gets a hold of some details. This is the details about her personal life, and begins to run stories that make Leah out to be a villain to the public. And when that happens, Leah shuts down, which of course makes the press attack her behavior even more. You can say that. There were people coming out of the woodwork. Friends. Old babysitters. Ex-boyfriends. People that seen her partying in different places in Tampa in the days leading up to Zach's appearance. So on and so forth. And some interesting things would come to light during the investigation. When Leah was telling them about her morning routine, that particular day, the walk and the impromptu swim in the pool, she mentioned to the detectives that she didn't have a swimsuit on or had even taken a towel that morning. When questioned about that further, she kind of shrugged it off and would make the comment that she didn't even like swimming. She didn't even like swimming. But at 3 or 4 in the morning, she goes for this impromptu swim. Yeah, sounds kind of fishy. Then there was the issue of taking the trash out at 1 a.m. While nothing out of the ordinary was found in the trash at the complex, it wasn't clear how well the dumpsters were searched that night. That's a very good question, something that I wish the police would mention. Many people question if that's what she was really doing, or if she had done something to Zach and was taking him out of the apartment at that time. We personally don't believe that's the situation. We have a lot of reasons for that, which we'll get into a little bit later in this video. Now, Leah's story has always remained consistent to the detectives. She shut down for a few days. However, she did make a tearful public plea on September 15th to beg people to keep looking for Zach. By the way, that public plea is what really got us involved. We'll just leave it at that. One of the directors of the organization had an encounter with Leah that day, and that really kind of set the wheels in motion and has fueled this determination to find out what happened to 8-year-old Zachary Bernhardt, who's now 30. Now, there would be zero evidence leading detectives anywhere, and tip lines were established. Hundreds of tips would roll in, but nothing helping them to locate Zachary. So after a couple of months, Leah would move away from the area and actually stop participating in the search for Zachary altogether. Now, this is after a couple of months. Her family, defending her actions, said she just couldn't take the constant pain and struggle anymore. However, this is very unusual in missing children cases. Many times, parents don't even leave the house that they were in just in case a child might return. I mean, you got these pleas out there to bring Zach home. You got the banner up there hanging on the thing, bring Zach home, Zach come home. And after a couple of months, I'm moving out of the apartment complex. In fact, I'm going to move out of state. I'm going to get married. I'm going to change my name, change my phone number. Almost like Leah gave up after like a couple of months. A break finally comes in when a confidential informant calls a tip line to tell police that there's a man in the area bragging about kidnapping, raping, and killing children in the area. This writer says, first of all, I can't imagine in the first place how someone can do all that to an innocent child, but then to go around and brag about it, that person is a complete sicko. We concur. So anyways, this tip leads them to investigate a man by the name of Kevin Jalbert. Just looks creepy. An undercover officer befriends Jalbert, and in a car together begin riding around Clearwater. As they near the Savannah Trace apartments, Kevin points over towards the apartments and tells the officer, I kidnapped a boy from there once. Kevin Jalbert, 42, was arrested in June of 2001 on charges after he told the undercover detective that he had kidnapped and murdered boys in the past and gotten away with it. Jalbert also told the detective that he would use bleach to wash DNA evidence off of his victims, and detectives found Clorox bleach and a funnel in Jalbert's vehicle. Now that's pretty scary. After Jalbert's arrest, authorities searched his home and cars and found that his computer contained multiple images of child porn. It was also determined that he visited a landfill 2 weeks after the disappearance of Zach. That's scary. He went to a landfill 2 weeks after Zach had disappeared. That landfill was thoroughly searched and no evidence was found. Of course, this was, June 2001? Yeah. And Zach disappeared on September 11th of 2000. So, yeah, that's kind of strange. Let's see, where were we here? Let's see. Oh, it says here that after Jalbert's arrest, authorities searched his home and cars and found that his computer contained multiple images of child porn. It was also determined that he visited a landfill 2 weeks after the disappearance of Zach. That landfill was thoroughly searched and no evidence was found. I would imagine there would be. Not that much out in the future. Kevin Jalbert had previously lived in Savannah Trace, the same apartment complex as Zach and Leah. Now, we haven't been able to identify that. We do have access to some resources, and we never found an address for Kevin Jalbert living in Savannah Trace. Now, he may have been living with his mom or something, but we found other addresses for him, but nothing that he ever lived in Savannah Trace, so we're just not sure about that information. So, Kevin Jalbert would be arrested, tried, and convicted for pornography and other related charges, sentenced to prison until 2038. Jalbert has also said that he was kidding when he was talking to the undercover officer, and he had never kidnapped or murdered any child. What do you think about that? Covering his butt? Or was he just a pathetic liar who has some sick freaking fantasies? Police have considered him a person of interest. However, they also have said that his DNA doesn't match. So the police had not previously stated that they had any DNA, especially male DNA. So it is believed that they have evidence they have not released to the public yet. That's very concerning. That's very concerning. In fact, let's look at that again. Police have said that his DNA doesn't match. So that would indicate that they found some male DNA in the apartment. But they have not kind of said that to the public. They also have said that they don't believe Leah is a suspect, but they do believe she knows more than she is saying. You think so too? This image is disturbing. In August 2001 in Boulder, Colorado, a new tip popped up. A photograph is found in the parking lot of a sporting goods store. It's a young blonde male, duct taped and tied up, laying outside on the ground. The child looks a bit like Zachary, but the photo isn't perfect straight on, and the family doesn't think it is him. There is some resemblance, but it's just not clear enough to tell. Investigators haven't stated one way or another. However, the boy in the photo has never been identified. On September 11, 2001, a one-year vigil was planned for Zachary. The media was going to be there, And the hope was that this would be renewed in the public eye and might bring in some answers. However, the day of September 11th came, and we all know what happened that day, which was 9/11. And because of that, Zachary's case was left out of the media completely. Yet another twist. Then on New Year's Eve 2001, something startling would happen at the Savannah Trace Apartments, bringing Zachary's case to light once again. Now, it's New Year's Eve 2001, so this is, right, December 31st of 2000 is what this is. 3 boys were outside in broad daylight playing on the playground at the apartment complex. A man in a pickup truck rides up and offers the boys some ice cream. The oldest trick in the book. Gosh, parents, tell your kids don't ever fall for that. One of the boys, a 5-year-old, approaches the man. The man jumps out of his pickup truck, grabs the boy, jumps back in the truck, and speeds off. Several witnesses see this happen. A manhunt ensues, but they don't find the man or the pickup truck. They do find the boy, however, alive 10 hours later in a dumpster located 80 miles away from Savannah Trace Apartments in Clearwater, Florida. The boy described his kidnapper as a Caucasian male with dark, stringy hair. We find that very interesting, too. And if you look at any of our posts and previous videos on Zachary, you'll see an Orlando, Florida connection to a Caucasian male with dark hair. We'll lead you guys to draw any conclusions. The police immediately wonder if this is connected to Zachary's disappearance. However, they would never find the suspect, and they wouldn't be able to officially say if there was a connection between the two. There also wasn't much information about the kidnapping itself, such as why it happened, what the purpose was, why the boy was dumped off in a dumpster. The questions could go on and on. But happening just 4 months after Zachary's disappearance does make you wonder if there was something else going on in that area in particular. There are theories about that. There are definitely theories about that. Some people believe that in order to take the attention off of Leah, that this second one may have been staged to make it look like there was a problem going on in that complex, so that people would easily believe that it couldn't be Leah by any stretch of the imagination. That is one of the theories out there. We will tell you that from what we've been able to find, there never has been before and has never been since another child taken from that complex. Meanwhile, Leah has moved to North Carolina, remarried twice, as far as we know, and has even moved as far away as Hawaii at one point. Yes, she did. She got married to a military man who we believe was stationed out in Hawaii, and she was living out there with him. So obviously many things do point toward Leah in this case. Her story is strange. Why go for a walk and leave her apartment unlocked? Okay, that could happen. That's dumb, but it could. Why go for a 2-minute swim at 3 a.m.? That's definitely strange, but if the allegations are true of drug use, that could be explained. Without a suit or a towel, okay, impulsive, could be connected to drug use, yeah. When you admittedly don't even like swimming, that's weird. And then taking out the trash at 1 a.m., she said, also makes me wonder. I don't find that too strange. I mean, if you're up all night and you're bored, I've been known to do some cleaning. And the timeline of that night that we know of was provided solely by Leah. That's the other problem with this. There's no corroboration of what she's saying. Now, there are some neighbors that reported some different things, like her car not being there at a couple of different times in that early morning. So there are indications that she was not home the whole night. And of course, she's not going to mention that because you can get in big trouble for leaving your 8-year-old alone at night. That's not exactly a smart thing to do. We're not saying that's what happened, but this is according to other people that lived in the complex. But then again, some things make me wonder if Leah might be telling the truth. Maybe she isn't Parent of the Year, but maybe she is innocent. For example, what is this DNA the police are comparing it to? They alluded to it being male DNA, so whose is it? They have to know. We can only assume that the police have done detective work on that. See, this is part of the problem. The police aren't telling the public anything. They're not releasing any information, which is very strange because, like, we had the case of Michael Vaughn. Okay, this was out in Oh, God help me, I think it was Idaho or Utah, one of those two. And this poor little boy, disappeared. And the police were giving updates all the time. But there's nothing. The police are saying nothing about this case anymore. They're saying it's not a cold case. Zachary still has an active Amber Alert, the longest running in the state of Florida. But the police will not comment on anything. We are in touch with a family member who will remain nameless by their request. They even contacted the detectives with some information that was found, and they won't tell that person anything. So what is really going on here? It's like it's been 22 years. The police say they're still working the case, which we don't believe that for a minute. There's no room, in the Clearwater Police Department where they're sitting there working 22-year-old cases actively. Like they're making calls, they're on social media, they're searching the internet. We don't believe for a minute that anybody is doing anything else to solve this case. They're sitting back and they're waiting for a tip to come in, and then you never hear back from them. We know of many of developments and tips and information that we have come across that has been relayed to Clearwater Police Department and the FBI, and the response back is it will be routed to the right person. And then you never hear anything again. Now, part of that is because, sure, the police don't know who they're dealing with, right? I mean, it could be somebody involved in it. It could be somebody who's trying to throw them off court. I understand. We understand that as an organization. I get it. But to not even talk to the family? That's a little strange. Also, why would Leah call the police at 4:47 a.m.? Why not come up with a better story and just wait until morning to call the police? That's a point. Now, we did hear from this family member that Leah had made a call after that and one about an hour before that, okay, asking for someone to come to the house. I'm just saying, if your child's missing, the first person you don't usually call is someone that has to travel 45 minutes to get to you, right, to help you look for Zach. I mean, that doesn't seem to make any sense. But also, one of the neighbors reported that Leah had knocked on their door around 5 a.m. So that would have been after she called the police. And she was asking if Zach was there. I don't know. I'm thinking you would have checked all those places out first before you called the police. But that's just another strange inconsistency. So there's too many questions in this case to list them all here. This writer says, I also can't get over the kidnapping that happened on New Year's Eve. First of all, it's pretty terrifying that it happened in broad daylight with witnesses. Second of all, it's interesting that the little boy was dumped in a dumpster 80 miles away. We have also had conversations with the mom. We have verified that she is the mom of this boy, who's grown up now and still suffering the effects of that time, as you can imagine. And she was able to give us a lot of information about Savannah Trace Apartments and about some theories and about some connections to the family that were very questionable, to say the least. Was there a kidnapper in the area of Savannah Trace kidnapping boys? Well, it didn't happen again afterwards, and it hadn't happened before. So, I don't know how to answer that question. But was it just bad luck for Zachary that he walked out of his apartment at 4 a.m. and right into the arms of a kidnapper? Or did the kidnapper come into the house? How did they know the apartment was unlocked? Something else that's very interesting about this, and the news keeps forgetting to report this, but we have verified that it was true. They had a dog. There was a dog in that apartment, a little dog, and the neighbor said that dog would bark at everything. There was no barking that night, and one of the neighbors was actually having a barbecue for a birthday party, I believe it was, and there were people up all night. They was partying on, and this neighbor reported Leah's car coming and going several times, but also said there was no kid screaming, didn't hear the dog barking, nothing to indicate that something was wrong at that apartment. Now, if you have a stranger who was watching the apartment, just waiting for the right moment, right? And then he sees Leah leave, and then he checks the door, and it's unlocked. And then he gets past a barking dog somehow, okay, and then knows to go upstairs and go to Leah's bed, and then gets out of the apartment and out to presumably a moving vehicle, that's a lot. That's a lot of coincidence, in our opinion. All right, let's land the plane here. So let's review the theories in this case. One, let's talk about Leah first. She's probably the most obvious red flag here. Many things don't work in her favor, but for some reason the police have never said she is even so much a person of interest. They have, however, said they do think she knows more than she's saying. Her actions were odd after the disappearance of her son. But psychologists have stated that everyone reacts to tragedy in their own ways. We've heard this before. So did Leah do something to Zach, or does Leah maybe know who did? That's a very good question. That is one of the theories out there. That Leah knows what happened to him. One of the theories is that she left the apartment for that little bit of time to provide a window of opportunity for the person that she knew to come in and take that child. Now, the theory states that she would have done this for several reasons. One is attention, one is sympathy, one is money, gifts, maybe to be able to stay in the apartment longer. Lots of reasons according to that theory. So does Leah know who took him? We don't know. Does she know what happened to him? We don't know. The random kidnapper. This is the second theory. This is a possibility, especially with the kidnapping happening at the same complex that Zach and Leah lived at. Maybe someone in the area knew their routine, knew of Zach, and had been watching them until an opportunity struck. And since Leah normally worked nights, the kidnapper knew they had to strike during those hours. Is that possible? Yeah, sure. I mean, again, they would have had to be watching the house for a while for her to walk out the door and then find the door unlocked and then get past the barking dog and get in the house and get Zach without waking him up, without screaming, without any kind of hassle, But the police said that, or they alluded to the fact that there is male DNA that Kevin Jalbert doesn't match. So if that indicates that there was a male that went in that house, it could support that theory. Or, number 3, Zach wandered away. Florida is full of waterways, and remember Drew Street, the street that Savannah Trace Apartments complex was on, ran between the Gulf of Mexico and Tampa Bay. In between waterways, small bodies of water, canals are not uncommon. There are also a lot of alligators in the area. Did little Zachary wake up, find his mom not there, and go off in search of her? Certainly possible, but I wonder why the search dogs couldn't pick up his scent. Good point. The search dogs past the apartment could not find any scent of Zachary. So that pretty much, if you trust the dogs, that wipes that idea out. Now, if he was carried out of the apartment, then you probably wouldn't have any scent of his, right? But it doesn't appear that he would get up and go walking in the middle of the night. And then Kevin Jalbert. Do you believe Kevin Jalbert may have been guilty of something? He has since recanted his story that he kidnapped and murdered someone from Savannah Trace. But did he really do it? He was guilty of a lot of crimes involving children, which is child pornography, and lived in the same apartment complex. Or was he just a creep bragging about committing a crime he had heard about on the news? This writer says, I'll never understand it, but criminals do that sort of thing all the time. Now, it's been said that this case has divided Zach and Leah's family. There are some family members that think Leah is 100% innocent and was the victim of a witch hunt by the media. And there are some family members that believe Leah does indeed know more than she is saying. And this case is tragic every way you look at it, having torn a family apart. So what do you think happened to Zachary Bernhardt? We want to see your comments below. And if you have any information pertaining to this case or to the whereabouts of Zachary Bernhardt, you can call the Clearwater Police Department at 727-562-4422. You can also comment below. You can also reach out and private message to us. You have many options. Zachary was 8 years old at the time he disappeared, but he would now be 29. This article is a little old. Like I said, it's last year, so he's 30 right now, soon to be 31. And aside from Leah, Zachary left behind an extended family that needs answers. So yeah, the family is divided. We have found that out. There are some that will believe 100% what Leah's story is. And there are some that believe that she orchestrated this. There are some that believe a guy was brought home to the house and then something happened. So, I mean, the reality is there's lots of theories, lots of possibilities. The important thing is that we never stop searching, that his name doesn't go down into the annals of history and just be forgot about. Because, listen, whether this child is alive and well, we can't say well, but, for all intents and purposes, alive and is living out there somewhere under a different name or under an alias or on drugs, God help us, or something we don't know, or whether he's passed on. We don't think that that's the case, but whether that is a situation, whether the family orchestrated somehow to get him away from Leah and things went wrong, that's a theory. We don't know. But regardless of the situation, this cute little boy, this precious child of God, deserves to have a life. Whatever life he can still have. And we don't want it to be a life where he's got to hide and be full of false guilt and false shame. We want him to be able to have a life that has purpose and meaning. Certainly, you don't hear those stories a lot. Now, there have been cases that even after 30 years, right? There's been cases after 20 years a child's been found. Think of the 3 girls in Ohio from some years back. So it's not unheard of that somebody can be found after this long period of time. Now, we want to encourage you to go to the playlist on our YouTube channel here and look at the videos. Go back and look at our posts. You can click on our page on Facebook, Protect Your Children, Inc., and you can search for the name Zachary Bernhardt, and you can pull up all the posts, because we outline some of the reasons we believe that he's still alive. We have statements from a security guard that worked for Lockheed Martin over in Clearwater and in Orlando, who claims that he met Zachary Bernhardt. This guy, Zach, told him his name and then tried to walk it back a little bit. This was back in 2014, 2015, that Zach, according to this man, was living in Orlando with another guy named Tim. So that's an angle that has been passed on to the police, but nobody has heard anything about that. We will tell you that 6 days after the Clearwater police and the FBI were notified about this, that man, Tim, that Zach was purportedly staying with, died. Obituary says unexpectedly and suddenly passed away 6 days later, after the police were notified that Zach may have been staying at this man's house. Now, that's 15 years after Zach disappears. That's definitely a very interesting situation. We don't believe for a minute that the security guard, we haven't been able to find any connections. We don't know why he would make up something like this out of nowhere. So we tend to believe the story. And it does cast a lot of shade on the family as well. According to his testimony, if you will, the grandmother, Zach's grandma Carol, at that time knew that Zach was staying with this man, Tim. This is according to the security guard. And that his aunt also knew, Billy Joe. So there were reports that he gave, the security guard gave, that Zachary was staying with family on and off in the Orlando area throughout the years. Of course, that needs to be looked into as well. So there are a lot of things out there that point to the fact that Zach is still alive. We've come across some very interesting comments. Whenever we do a video or a post or a search on the internet looking for videos about Zachary, there always seems to be that one person that comments that makes the hairs on the back of your neck stand up. And we just came across one of those recently. where the commenter was putting it in the if, right? In the if Zachary. But it was kind of stating matter of factly that if Zach was around still, he would have Facebook and he would have social media. He would have YouTube. They put in all big letters, almost as a way of saying Zach has a YouTube. And then it says that this person just hopes that Zach is 30 years old and wants to remain anonymous. Very odd comment to put on a video. It was on a news report video about Zachary. So, I mean, there's some things that are just very, very strange. And we believe that it indicates that Zach is still alive. We believe that he's living under an alias. He's living off the grid. And people would say, why would he do that? Why doesn't he just come forward and say, hey, I'm not missing anymore? All depends on the circumstances. He may be living in fear. There are some indications, at least the police have said that they believe this, that he may have been entered into the sex trafficking industry in the area, child sex trafficking, but never left the area, that he was being exploited, perhaps for sex and money. God, we pray not. But there are indications that that could be what happened to him. And he stayed in the area, that he never even got out of Florida until later years, probably 15, 16, maybe 17, 18, and those years after the reported staying with the man in Orlando. So, yeah, there's some indications of the fact that he's still alive and that he's staying off the grid. Like we said, it could be out of fear, could be out of false shame. He could be protecting. If the theory out there is true, we're not saying it is, clear that, we're not saying it's true. If the theory that's floating around out there is true, that the family had something to do with orchestrating this in order to get him away from Leah, it's a theory, not ours, but it's out there. If that turned out to be true at some point, then Zach knows that if he came forward, a lot of his family members would get in trouble. So that could be another reason. So it's a mystery, but we're going to keep raising awareness on it. I want to thank you for taking time to listen to this. It's a long video, but this is a summary, a good synopsis of what's happened, where we're at today. Check out Jennifer right here on medium.com. She does very good work here, as you can see. She's the host of the Missing Persons podcast called Where Are They? And we encourage you to check her out. So thanks a lot for listening. Please like, share. If you're on YouTube, subscribe. We'll keep you updated on every step of the way. As much as we can, we'll continue to dig and dig and dig on behalf of Zachary Bernhardt. Please check out our website, protectyourchildren.org, protectyourchildren.org. We have tons of free resources there to help keep your kids safe, learn how to identify predators, identify potential abusers, look up recent stats. You can download the free in-depth protection packet, which will just totally educate you and your children on the ways to be safe from online and community predators. There's podcasts, there's an animated series for kids, teaching them how to be safe around predators, and so much more. So check out our website, protectyourchildren.org. And if you like the work that we're doing, if you want to support us in this work and helping to find Zachary Bernhardt, and we've also been involved in some other cases, and also as much as we are educating the public on how to keep kids safe by raising awareness of this epidemic of child abuse and kidnapping that's spreading across our country. If you want to help us, support us. If you want to help us, please support us. So you can go to protectyourchildren.org, click on the How to Help page, and you can make a tax-deductible donation, and you can do other things if you can't afford to do that. That can help us to continue to raise awareness and keep kids safe from predators. So, all right, this has been Chris with protectyourchildren.org. Again, thanks for watching, and please Google Zachary Bernhardt, find the information. If you're an amateur sleuth, contact us. If you know somebody who might help us raise awareness, have them reach out to us via Facebook or our website. We are looking to team up with as many people as we can to raise awareness on this case. So we thank you again for watching. Take care, stay safe, and keep protecting.